This is it, the ultimate money reveal. For the first time, you'll see a chart that settles a 100-year debate. What's truly the best performing asset class of the last century? Yes, everything you've ever heard about investing, all the advice, all the charts you've seen all your life, all the gurus, this distills it down to one answer. And here's the thing, most people guess completely wrong. Is it real estate, stocks, bonds, gold, or is it something else that nobody even talks about? But the biggest secret isn't in the chart at all. It's in what the chart doesn't show. This is huge. Now you'll get clarity on what you must avoid, or else you could work until the day that you die. For nearly the past 100 years, it's the annualized returns of 6 major asset classes by decade. Yeah, going all the way back to 1930. And every decade tells a new story, and one asset class, it keeps quietly, consistently outperforming in the real world, even though the raw numbers don't announce it. Let me show you why. Hi, I'm Keith Weinhold, Get Rich Education founder, Forbes Real Estate Council member, and see my work in the USA Today. Starting from 1930, this asset class return chart spans almost 100 years. Yeah, we're talking about the Great Depression, World War II, the New Deal, abandoning the gold standard, the Cold War, civil rights movements, oil shocks, Volcker rate hikes, the dot-com boom and crash, the 9/11 attacks, the housing bubble, COVID-19, the AI revolution, and 16 presidencies, all those ups and downs, and war, and peace, and economic booms, and recessions. Here's the full breakdown, the 1930s to the 2020s, and look at really how chaotic this is. The 1930s, gold and bonds win. The 1950s, stocks dominate. The 1970s, inflation was totally running a victory lap, and the 2000s, gold again. The 2010s, stocks roar back. And what's real estate doing all of this time? It is just quietly solid every single decade. No drama, just showing up to work in a crisp collared shirt like it's Monday morning forever. But here's the part almost nobody understands or seems to realize. Real estate doesn't need to win any decade to make you the most money. So the 6 asset classes are stocks, cash, bonds, real estate, gold, and then inflation, which isn't really an asset class, it's a benchmark for everything else. All right, since these all begin from the year 1930, almost 100 years, let's take it from the lowest return to the highest return. And you might be surprised that the CPI inflation rate, average over the past 100 years, is 3.2%. Yeah, even though the Fed's CPI inflation target has long been 2%, it has run hotter than that longer than most people believe. All right, so it's not really an asset class, but the other 5 are, and it takes more twists and turns than you ever would have imagined, as we'll see. The next highest return is cash at 3.3%. That's measured in the yield from 3-month T-bills. Next up is bonds at 4.3%. That's the 10-year Treasury average of the last 100 years. The next highest is real estate at 4.7%. That uses the Case-Shiller index. Now we're up to the second highest. It's gold at 5.6%, and the highest is stocks at 10.3%. That uses the S&P 500. All right, now most people see this chart and they think that's it. Real estate's 4.7% appreciation rate, that loses out to gold's 5.6 and stocks 10.3. Now they see that and then they just go back to watching Love is Blind or something. But in a sense, real estate is actually way worse than that 4.7%. Because look, unlike the other asset classes that we're talking about, in your home, every single month you have all these ongoing expenses. So you have to deduct out of that property tax and property insurance, maintenance, repairs, utilities, maybe an HOA. In fact, all those homeowner payments some months could even add up to more than your mortgage payment. Homeowners might even have a negative return some years then. So, I mean, how can a 4.7% return even hold up? In fact, can you make the case that real estate is the worst one here? I mean, it might look that way when you consider those things. But before we're done, there's an incredible plot twist here that almost nobody could see coming. First, go ahead and put a like on the video if you like how I'm breaking it down. I really appreciate the thumbs up. Well, what other asset class needs a substantial adjustment? Probably stocks. Would their 10.3% return get adjusted somewhere? Yeah, a little. Now, not every stock produces a dividend yield, but stocks in the S&P 500 currently average a 1.2% dividend yield. So that could be added on to give you an 11.5% return. All right, and now any asset class can have the 3.2% inflation rate deducted from it to come up with an inflation-adjusted return. So really what that means is holding your wealth in gold, bonds, or cash, the majority of your return is eaten alive, and you're going to be working forever if you're trying to build wealth off of that. Take a look at how the 2008 GFC affected the annual returns for the decade. Stocks were down 1%, real estate up 4%, but here's the giant elephant in the room that everyone misses, and real estate investors have been waiting for me to say it: leverage. And this will drastically change the leader on the chart. You have to look at how people actually buy and own these assets. Investors typically pay all cash for everything here except one asset, and that is real estate. When you realize that you buy a $500K property with just $100K down, the property goes up 5% to $525K. Oh, well, you just profited $25K with your mere $100K down payment. So you just got a 25% return on your real estate appreciation. How? You leverage the bank's money. You got a 5% return on both your 100K down and the 400K that you borrowed from the bank. But there's even more to this story. That happens to real estate whether you're a homeowner or a property investor right there. Like whether you own your primary residence or you're an investor in rental property. That happens regardless, but let me show you what most people miss. If this is a rental property, not only do you get the 25% leverage return, you add on the rent income after all your expenses are paid, which could be another, say, 3%. The fact that the tenant is paying down your loan for you could tack on another 4%. The tenant makes all the other expenses as well. We're up to 32% now. Plus, rental property owners get a huge basket of tax benefits. We haven't factored in taxes at all. Plus, inflation debases your mortgage loan balance in a leveraged way as well. So your appreciation gets amplified and your debt gets corroded away for you with leverage. This is how 30 to 40% returns are common and even expected for real estate investors, which actually sounds like an irresponsible thing to even say out loud until you understand how the numbers work. And that's why this chart drives real estate investors crazy, but this is often how mainstream media portrays asset class comparisons. It's a lot like this. Understand that by looking closely at the notes on the chart, the 4.7% return for real estate cites that popular Case-Shiller index, and that uses a repeat sales methodology. And what that means is that Case-Shiller measures the sales price of the same property over time. Therefore, a property has to sell at least twice to be measured by the popular Case-Shiller index. So therefore, this 4.7% figure, that excludes new build homes, and new builds appreciate faster than existing homes. Now, more existing homes do sell each year than new builds, so we can pretty safely assume that real estate's long-term appreciation rate is pretty likely between 5 and 6% without considering leverage or any of those other things. Yeah, making comparisons across asset classes like this is tricky since investment properties' leverage and cash flow gets nullified. It doesn't show up here. It's a reminder that even if you can't get much cash flow rent income off a 20 or 25% real estate down payment, sheesh, most people put a 100% payment into stocks, gold, or Bitcoin, and they don't expect any cash flow from it. Bitcoin isn't part of what we're looking at for the century-long view because it did not exist until 2009. And also, NYU had to use some alternative statistics sometimes here. The S&P 500 index only came into being in 1957, Case-Shiller 1987. For you to build real, durable, generational wealth, you have to own something that blows away the rate of inflation, and rental property does that with all those ways you're paid. I touched on it with those high-flying rates of return that I mentioned. Let me break it down for you. And this is just with buy and hold rental property that a property manager manages for you. It's crucial to know how it works and what all of your return sources are. So frankly, none of this matters if you don't watch this next video, which is on the screen right now.